Okay, welcome to Leverage, episode 8. I am excited to have my buddy Joel Kadish
It's
here.
true. I'm here.
It's true.
Are there snacks?
No,
There's no snacks whatsoever. And
you're going to find out why.
Hold on a second. Is there hair and makeup? Because I'm appalled right now.
I know.
When I do these for Velocity, they have hair and
By
makeup.
the way, I have to tell you.
What?
The amount of people that don't think this is being filmed. Like, I actually
You told me
had
this
someone...
was filmed.
But you asked.
Hold on a second.
By the way, this is how it's going to go.
You know how... Nordstrom's closing, right? But
yes.
But on Saturday...
Yeah.
Hold on. Look at this sweater. And
Zoom in.
the new jeans. Look at that. I picked this up
Nordstrom's.
for the podcast because you told me on Friday...
That it was being filmed.
That it was being filmed.
So, you look great.
But I didn't get a haircut.
Okay.
My wife's pissed.
I actually had someone who bailed on me because they were too nervous to be on. Anyway, I thought they were all filmed, and then I found out that only 17% are filmed.
Yeah,
so there
very
we
few.
Go. Anyway,
Very few.
So Joel, believe it or not,
What?
after that intro, is a real estate lawyer.
How many lawyers do you like? No, really.
I know a lot of lawyers.
No,
I
okay.
like all of them.
Oh, no, you don't. That's not true. Like, I'm a sole practitioner because I couldn't find any lawyers I liked. They're a bunch of dicks. Like, we know that, right?
You sound like how I feel about.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Never mind. Okay.
Anyway, so no, there are some wonderful, wonderful lawyers out there, along with the amazing real estate agents. But yes, you have to find, and this is why it's a great segue, because I was going to say, I deal a lot with Joel. He is definitely one of my first go-tos because you answer quickly. You respond as quickly as I do, which I really do appreciate. And I legally have to send it out to several lawyers. Yeah. You usually win that just based on your response. I also appreciate you're like, it's just always going to be okay and it'll always get done. Right. So I really do appreciate that approach. And I have a similar one. So one of the reasons why I think we get along.
Well, look, you can be, so one of my first mentors said to me, don't lawyer a deal to death. Right? So you can prove how smart you are. You can draft a 50-page agreement. But at the end of the day, we really, really deal in practical stuff. Like we talked before we started filming about, the mirrors and the pot lights and, the TV brackets.
We'll get into these stories.
And we'll tell a bunch of stories. But the bottom line is, I think it's best for the client when there's a team approach. When you've got...
Don't talk at them. Explain to them what's going on. Be on their side.
And just, you have your
realtor. How are we going to get this done? It's going to be okay.
You have your lawyer. You have a good mortgage broker or banker. And when we all work as a team, we can stop problems before they even start.
And that's not about closing also on something that doesn't make sense. But it's also, I actually had a client the other day say to me, how do you not have 100 heart attacks a day, right? Because they were having a heart, through their process. And I said, it's not that I don't. It's that I just know when to have a heart attack and when not to. And so having the right team, obviously, to say, so we need to run.
Right.
Like, this is not for us.
100%.
Or, you know what, this actually isn't a big deal. We see this all the time. It's going to be okay. This is how we're going to move forward.
And so stopping the problems or anticipating problems and then working them out and ironing out the bumps so it's not as bumpy for the clients when we work together. And I think that's 100% how you and I have worked together best.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I have had lawyers who are like, who also tend to like to want to be smarter than the agent also, because the agents are all stupid.
I don't want to do that.
And so having that, cohesiveness for the client is also
100%.
really important. So all that being said, I one of the things that always I wanted to start the conversation out about was how it always appalled me. And I'm going to use that word appalled. And this is not to throw any young agents under the bus. I think if you're a young agent, you need to be in a good brokerage where you can call people who have the experience, who will help you along, or be on a team. I think that's really important.
Mentorship.
Just have a mentorship,
that's
whatever.
It.
But it really shocked me because I didn't have mentorship. Yeah. I didn't have the support when I first started. I didn't join. I had a great brokerage, but I didn't join a brokerage that handheld. How much legal? They're just, there's legal contracts. Yeah. A legal agreement of purchase and sale is a contract that can be held up in court.
Yep.
And there are people, day one, you are allowed to write up. So do you feel the same way? How do you feel about that?
So I think you know this, but when you go, when you take an Uber, the Uber driver also has a real estate business card. Right, because that's how it goes, right?
Story about that,
so and we see all the time, and you're right. The governing bodies don't they license people, But beyond licensing, how do you draft an agreement? And we talked before about, what are the common problems that we see, or what do I think about agreements? And it could be everything from the parties' names, right? So who are the sellers, and who, if we're acting for the buyers, who are the buyers? Does the mom, you know how it is these days with millennials, they buy a place, they don't have enough credit. Mom or dad, they need mom or dad. So do mom and dad need to go on title? Do they need to be a party? So we start right at the top of the agreement with who are the parties, who are the right parties. Then legal descriptions. Oh my gosh.
Checking that the seller can actually legally sell. Are they on title?
You got it. And so that's, using Purview, or, maybe calling the lawyer and saying, look, I just want to confirm, can I show you this real quick? And, look, I have relationships with lots of agents. I don't necessarily get all the deals. I'm happy to be a resource because, you know what I mean? I don't care about deals. I care about relationships. And I think all the good lawyers and agents and mortgage brokers and bankers, insurance people, they don't care about any individual deal. We care about, hey, if I build relationships, I'm going to make money. But going back to what we see, so, starting at the top with the parties, legal description, and in condos, hey, is there a parking spot? Is there a locker? Are they legally owned? Is it exclusive use common element? Do you know the difference?
So Joel's going through a million things.
Yeah, a million things.
Like there are so many things that we have to think about as agents, and there are some basic ones. There are basic ones we always want to think about in condos. There's basic ones that we always want to think about in homes. It's interesting. I did a deal the other day. He's a Canadian citizen, so don't worry. He was allowed to buy real estate. He bought a condo for his parents, but he lived in the U.S.
Right.
And he said to me, okay, great, draft it up, send it over to me. I'm going to review it. I'll let you know. And then he said, where's my condition on my lawyer reviewing the offer?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, we don't do that here.
No.
Right? And he's like, well, we do that all the time in the U.S. Yeah. And so, it really struck me, and I've been doing this a long time, but it hadn't come up ever that someone had asked me for that. I mean, and I said to him, we really see it as an escape clause. An escape clause would be something that buys people time, or a buyer time, in which they kind of like a cooling off period where they can say, you know what, my lawyer just didn't love the look of this. I'm walking away from the deal.
So Supreme Court of Canada says we have an overriding obligation to act in good faith, no matter what. So an out clause isn't really an out clause. You know where we see lawyer approval? Assignments. Because they're so bloody complicated. There's tax consequences.
For
so
sure,
we'll see them those.
Power
sales. Sometimes in estate deals, we'll see lawyer approval, but our general deals do not have lawyer approval. Well, they're firm and binding in accordance with their terms once those conditions are waived. What are the conditions?
Right, but the concern is that the agent knew and understood how to put that together.
Tough stuff.
So two of the things that was very interesting we were talking about before we started filming was like when you write up an offer, you're a buyer, you're going to go out and buy something, and you're going to either warrant certain things. So one of the big ones is like that someone is warranting that there wasn't a grow up.
Oh yeah,
which we'll get into it later on.
Hilariously.
So so they're warranting it, which I always say kind of isn't worth what the paper it's printed on.
There's no teeth. There's no teeth.
Well, there's no teeth because the reality is that even if they warrant it and you find out that they lied, are you taking, like, your only recourse is to take them to court. So now you're waiting on court dates, which is backed up already. What is that? Warrant,
small claims court.
Or if it's not small claims court, now it's something bigger,
terrible.
Right? So at the end of the day, how many sellers, on purpose or not on purpose, maliciously or not maliciously, are warranting certain things. Okay, so that's one. Second is condition. So you put a condition. I'm going to do a condition on financing. I'm going to do it on condition on my home inspection. Yeah. They're not escape clause in the sense that we're obviously all supposed to work towards getting the deal done, and you're not putting it in as a cooling off clause, but the language is to the buyer's sole discretion. So, and I called you on this. You 100%. Said, Rachel, if they don't like the way those knobs open the door, they're allowed to walk away.
So we see, first thing we should say is a lot of these things are market driven. Right? So there are times in the market where you can't put conditions in or you'll lose the deal. The smartest thing you can do is to put the financing condition in. And again, this comes down to a pre-approval means I'm allowed to borrow X amount of dollars. But a a financing deal is I'm allowed to borrow X dollars on this house. It may mean the house needs to be appraised quickly. It may mean that, the mortgage agent is going to go through various steps to make sure, this deal is going to go ahead. So financing clauses for me are critical. Do we need mom and dad on title? Do we need them as, to add them as covenants?
Sorry to interrupt. Are they critical? I mean, so I also, acting for my sellers, and it's true. It's very market driven. If you, a year ago, brought an offer to me with
three
a financing
conditions,
collision, I would laugh at you, and I would tell my clients,
see ya.
They're not serious buyers. Get your act together. When your clients are ready, I'm here to negotiate, no problem. Now we're in a market where financing is much harder, money is more expensive, and I'm telling buyers, yes, you can have a financing clause on there for sure. I also find it depends on who you're, so going from a lawyer who knows what they're doing to a mortgage broker, and I've talked to mortgage brokers who are like, oh, no, they have to have financing clause. I'm like, you're covering your ass.
Yeah, you are.
Sorry.
And we are, because there's a very tiny, little lawyer's book that we get when we graduate. We're not allowed to show it to anyone.
Like that parental book?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the little lawyer's book, it says you got to put all the conditions in. Where do you get your nails done? Can you show your nails? Look at that. Look at how orange they are.
He doesn't have any attention deficit problems at all. I did it to match my shirt.
Did you? No. Did you for real?
No.
Okay.
So So then going back to these warranting. So for example, I was telling this story recently about so warranting. Let's say that chattels are things that are in the house but not attached to the house. Fixtures that are attached to the house.
We call it degree of annexation. What does that mean?
Yes.
Degree of annexation means, so if it's an area rug, I roll it up and take it out. But wall-to-wall carpeting is affixed, right?
Right.
So I can't
Where
take
do
that.
Shelves, by the way, I've always wondered this.
Yeah?
Where does shelf, if I have one of those floating IKEA shelves in the wall,
sure.
what does that fall under?
Well, if it's like a picture and it just hangs on a hanger. No, it's drilled in.
It's drilled in.
So again, here's where specificity is better. Okay. I'd rather have, if you don't know if it's a chattel or a fixture, throw it in the chattel section as being included. Okay. And then you can't go wrong. To me, the more holes you drill in the wall, the more it means you can't take it with you. Right? The less holes you have in the wall means you can. And you know what? We never used to have TV brackets. Back in the day, there were, you didn't mount the TV on the wall because they weighed 2,000 pounds. But now everybody does. So, I have seen the worst, people rip those brackets out of the wall and leave
huge
gouges.
I had a massive,
it's terrible. And they're
argument.
I took it with. Sorry. But if you want to do that, patch it up, dude. Come on.
No, and they're like, no, it's fine.
Right. So this comes back to, look, I have a theory. Theory X and theory Y. People are good, people are bad, right? Essentially, this is what it comes down to. 98% of the people we deal with, 98% of the closings, no problem. They leave a little note, bottle of wine, says, hope you're happy here too.
And you know what? For all of you that are listening, be that person.
Yeah, be that person.
Just be
why
that
not?
Person.
Why not be
just
good?
Well, don't even buy them a bottle of wine. Just leave them a card, or just don't leave holes in the wall.
What would you want your kids to do? Right? How do we raise our kids, right? Show me, don't tell me, right? Show me that you're a good person. How do you do that? Don't leave holes in the wall. Leave a bottle of wine, even if it...
So agents like to do this. So if you worked with an agent and you've bought something, and they say, okay, we're going to do a certain amount of buyer visits, which are, take your parents in. You're going to go measure for any work that you're going to do, see if your couch fits. And then you've got your pre-closing visit where you go in and make sure the house is okay.
Yes.
So if it's just warranted, it's really interesting because it means nothing. So I had a recent, I was telling you the story, I had a recent closing for representing buyers who the sellers decided the last minute that 2 light fixtures were sentimental. They'd been on the market for 6 months, but all of a sudden they decided, anyway, it doesn't matter. Fine, all good. I understand these things happen. Okay, so we go in and they're gone.
Yep.
So one of the warranties is also that a very basic one is that all chattels and fixtures will be in good working condition. That's another one that's come up. I've had people now crossing it out saying, taking good out, that it's just working condition.
Nonsense.
It's nonsense.
Okay.
But by the way, I think it's because money's more expensive.
Yeah.
They want more for their money versus when money was very cheap and they're like, we'll take anything we can get. Anyway.
Correct. It is a big difference.
Sellers decided that 2 light fixtures became really sentimental. They forgot. All good. I don't want to get into that part of it. And we go in for our buyer visit and they're gone.
They're gone. 100%.
They're gone. So that's the really interesting thing to me is that you can put almost like you can put whatever you want in an offer. And I've seen time and time again, and I'm having these conversations over and over with my buyers is we can't assume it'll be done. Like you have to almost expect the worst.
Yeah.
You can cover yourself as much as you can. And actually, at the end of the day, this is why I will say to clients, if I have a great agent on the other side of it, great lawyer, whatever,
I'm good.
90% of the time, the deal goes.
We'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out because they have a good relationship with their.
Yeah, because reasonable people acting reasonably come to the table, right? If it's only when one party's not acting reasonably, because it's not reasonable that they took those lights, but they did. So what do you do now, right? And you know,
well, we know what we did. We told them that the lawyers got involved. They put the lights back, and we made sure that we didn't transfer the money into their account until we saw the lights were. And unfortunately, became childish in the 11th hour, and it was unfortunate, and people's emotions get the best of them. But I think
it doesn't happen often. Like, we don't want to tell people, hey, this happens all the time. No, it happens like 2% of the time. But when it happens, you know what I always tell my clients who are on the bad side of these things? How would you feel? Like, how would you feel? You walk into your brand new house. It's an incredibly exciting day. And it's missing. It's not there. It was taken improperly. It's very emotionally difficult, right? So just put yourself in somebody else's shoes for once in your life. Like, stop being, like,
it was
don't be a narcissist. Oh, wait, I'm a narcissist. Don't be egomaniacal. Oh, hold on a second. But anyway, don't be me. Don't be me.
No, listen, that's the reality is that there's all this legality, and I didn't even put this to talk about, but there's all this legality that's involved in selling and buying a home. But at the end of the day, we were saying we both could probably write books on all the things that we've seen.
Do you know what we do on weekends?
It's not about the legal, though.
No, it's not.
It's about the emotions.
It's emotional part of this. And that I paid $1.5 million or $1.8 million or $600,000, whatever I paid for the property. It's like it is the biggest financial deal you're going to do of your life, and your expectations were dashed because of a light. Now, it sounds silly, but it is an emotional experience, and we respond. Oh,
they
very much so.
They did it to me.
Yes, it's very
and
much
they did,
so. Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with you. It's to do with them.
But so let me just tell you what the law is. I want to be clear about this. So, basically, let's say something small happens. The lights aren't there. As a buyer, we refuse to close? And the answer is no. The courts have said, like, if it's something small, you got to close, reserve your rights.
Really?
Yeah. You got to close, reserve your rights, and you got to sue them in small claims court. And that sucks. And when I tell clients that, they're like, what do you mean? It's in the contract. So does a contract mean nothing? And we're coming full circle, because really it does mean that the contract means nothing. And that people have to behave well.
Like, I just throw up. But, like, I feel like...
No, but you know what I mean, right? That's the practical answer. We're not bringing the lights back, right? And I told you before we came on air, I've had mirrors dropped in my office. On weekends, for fun, we circulate... we have a small group of lawyers, and for fun, we circulate videos of, like, toilets that flush the wrong way, of, like, fans that go clunk, 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 microwaves without handles. But you can't refuse to close because the microwave's missing a handle.
What if I walk in and, like, the fridge is gone?
Yeah, so we always talk about where's the line, right? The line is very difficult to draw, and we have to use our experience and our judgment. And this is where what you said before is true. Do I have a good lawyer on the other side? Somebody I know, somebody I've dealt with a bunch of times, where I can pick up the phone and just say, hey, come on. Yeah. Give us, if you don't want to, we know the fridge isn't there. Let's solve the problem now. Give us $1,000 and we'll call it a day.
So that's what I wanted to, it wasn't that we weren't going to close.
The
idea is that something called a holdback.
Yeah, sure.
Which is done when you do new builds.
But holdbacks are garbage, and I'll tell you why. What are the terms of the holdback? If you don't do X or Y to this quality by this day, I get to release the holdback. But who's to say what the quality is? Like, in other words, I don't...
We'll put the fridge back.
Yeah, but what fridge? The same
fridge
fridge?
that was,
fine. That's okay. That we can live with. If you don't put it back by Tuesday, I release $1,000. We do a holdback, but holdbacks can't be unilateral. So it can't be, I can't just impose a holdback on the other side. I have to negotiate it. We have to agree upon it. And then we have to agree upon the wording. And the moving truck's sitting there, right? Like the moving truck is actually sitting there, while me and this other lawyer.
By the way, that's another piece that I'll tell you is like, do not move and buy clothes. Do not close two properties on the same day. You will lose years off your life. Forget you. This is what we're paid for.
You'll get a divorce. You'll get a divorce. You'll be divorced. Like from how many times have I been married? Can we do another podcast about my personal life?
Sure.
Okay, because it's way more interesting.
Tune in for that.
Yeah.
No, tune in. So I also think I've now totally lost my train of thought because I'm like, that would just be so...
Yeah, it would be really good.
So we had a situation
Or
where
we could just talk about all the medication I take.
that was a precursor.
Sorry, never mind.
So we had a situation where also removal. So another basic clause is everything that's not included in this offer agreement should be removed, free of debris. And then I love the broom swept. That's my favorite. It's called broom swept condition.
Who has a broom? Do you have a broom?
I don't know. So
should we put Roomba swept?
We went for a buyer visit, and they were turning this den into a bedroom.
Oh, this was bad.
And they had a custom fireplace, which they were going to keep. And then they had these built-ins, but not attached, on either side of this really huge dark wood, like bookcases.
You know
right?
what? People are going to think we're totally making stuff up.
No.
Like these are actually real stories because I lived through it. Like it's crazy.
They take up so much room in this room. They're going to be. So I was like, oh, you know what? Don't worry about it. I said to my clients, they're not attached. They're not they're not chattels. This is being removed. That's part of the contract I wrote up, right? So then I'm like, but you know what? I'm just going to make sure. So I send you picture of the fact that I can put my hand through. It's not attached.
You actually pulled it off the wall.
I made a video to show that it moved, that it wasn't attached. So I sent it to Joel. I said, Joel, I don't love how the sellers have acted to date. There were red flags all over the place. I want to make sure that the other side knows. And also the agent also was just not very cooperative. So I sent it to Joel, and he's like, "Yep, no problem, okay." And what did the lawyer say to you? No, we disagree.
No, we don't agree. No,
and we're like,
it's factual.
No, but
you can't agree.
And I saw you're like, no, it's facts. Like this is not you disagree, don't agree. It's factual. These are attached. We're like. But they were like, no, we just totally disagree with your factual assessment of this. Yeah. And you know what? They were there on closing.
So I just want to tell you that bad agents and bad clients also pick bad lawyers. Like it's always 3 for 3. Like it's just the way it is.
And then the mortgage broker.
Oh, all of them. Yeah.
All of them. And by the way, to all of you new agents out there, if you have someone on the other side, on the agent that is not cooperating, run for the hills most of the time.
It's super hard. It's just super hard because especially... Look, you know what? Our clients have certain expectations. Like the reason we're talking about all this stuff today and all the bad jokes and everything else, but
why are we talking about this?
Well, because we're talking about really what our clients' expectations are from start to finish and how we as lawyers and agents manage those expectations.
And also what we do every day. I think that I think people are starting to understand. One of the reasons why I did this podcast was kind of like pull the curtain back on what really goes on.
It does. A lot of communication.
But I remember an client years ago saying to me, she's like, I always thought you guys just like went around and showed houses and that's all you did. And I'm like, I fight over bookcases and lights.
But a good I'll tell you, you and I both know agents. Once a deal is signed, they're gone. They disappear, right? But you follow the deal through and like to after closing. I mean, that my best agents keep following through, following up, acting as a team.
Minimum.
But they don't. It's just not out there. Most of the agents I deal with sign and then say it's the lawyer's problem. And that's super hard on me, right? It's really hard because, again, it's about managing those expectations.
You would see that. You don't see the agent after that. You have their conversation,
They're
nothing.
Gone. Literally gone.
Wow.
Super hard.
I didn't even think of that.
You didn't think of it because it's not how you roll. In other words, when you sign a deal, that for you is a new starting point.
But it's my responsibility
to go right through to closing and post-closing, right?
Of course.
And also, you're also managing relationships because you want to build that strong attachment to you and your brand, right? Like it sounds so simple, but it's actually like after closing,
it's almost brain surgery. After closing,
I just send an email that says, best of health and happiness in your new home. You know why? Because I really hope they have an amazing experience in their new home. Do you know what I
By
mean?
the way,
it's so important.
The
you know?
really good lawyers that I've come across are the ones that actually have the courtesy to tell the agents also that the deal
Yeah,
is
of
closed.
course.
But
just so you know.
Many don't know.
Oh, God.
But I think maybe because they've
Takes
never,
2
they're not,
seconds.
but they're also maybe not used to the agent being involved.
Takes 2 seconds.
But listen, I'm always in contact with my clients on closing day up until whatever. Just make sure, let me know. I let them know around what time. Like they're like, am I getting the keys at 9 o'clock? Am I getting the keys at 7 o'clock? What do I do with my day? Like it's a lot, and it comes naturally to us, but we don't know. But so I will, without disclosing a lot of information, the best story that I have with Joel.
Fantastic story.
And it made me remember because your email on the day of closing was the best email I've ever gotten in my entire life. Yeah. But was a estate sale with a son who was living in the house, a grown man, who thought it'd be a really good idea to grow a small amount of pot.
By the way, this guy's lit all the time. He ain't watching this podcast.
No, he's not.
He's right now. What time is it? Oh, he's having Doritos. You know what I mean? He's having like the biggest bag of Doritos. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I remember when I was supposed to be there, and then he didn't answer, and I was in the car for like an hour waiting. I had to be there for something. Yeah. And I had to call the sister, and then the sister, and then he finally came out, and I was like, Dude, and he's like, sorry, I was in the shower. I'm like,
no, you weren't in the shower.
You're dry. Like, you're bone dry.
Totally just lit.
And I remember calling, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
What do we do now?
Yeah.
What do we do now?
Pot plants.
So just if you are aware, if you ever come across this, if there is 4 or less plants,
you're good.
You're good. That is not considered a grow up. And we were lucky there was no grow up. And
there was no mold. Plus, wait. We talked about real things. We talked about, was there any signs of mold? And
I did a home inspection.
Smell.
Oh, no,
and
I
so
did
we
a home
talked about the
inspection.
real, because look, if you ever have the unfortunate experience of dealing with a grow up, it's a bloody mess.
Well, by the way, that's the reason you wouldn't want to grow up. It's not because you care about drugs or not. That's not what we're talking about. It's that the damage that growing, the environment to grow that, now that it's legal, in a home is not conducive.
It's horrific to sale or purchase. It's not conducive to contract.
Forget the smell. And the mold and the...
But you took clippings, didn't you? Like, let's be real. Sorry, for your home.
And I saw... Well, it was a rough year.
It's a new business, right?
It was a rough year.
Yeah.
I had a side hustle. No.
Yeah.
No.
No? Oh, I'm a little disappointed.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Well, that was my best story. Do you have a great story that did not involve...
I mean, look, the worst thing is, for me, is advising clients on the law of stigma. So that is... believe it or not, I had somebody who had a party at their condo, and somebody fell off the balcony and died. And so they called me and said, do I need to disclose this?
Sorry. I really am not laughing. I laugh when I'm nervous.
Yeah.
That is the most horrific story.
But
do I have to because if someone's murdered in your home, you have to disclose it,
right? So in Ontario, we actually don't have a law of stigma. So no. So there's no like ghosts, goblins.
But like someone like if someone passes, like an elderly person passes away in your home, you don't have to.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? So there is a distinction. So for instance, if I bludgeon my wife with an axe or a hammer, so that would be one of. So that would be my ex-wife. Hold on, never mind. So I'm wearing a yellow coat. Anyway, there's a chainsaw. So sorry. But the reality is. What happened? If somebody died of natural cause in the house, I take the position that I don't really need to disclose it. If there are circumstances that lead to issues around science, health, then you do have to disclose it. Okay. In this case, the falling off the balcony, I don't want to be trite about it, but I said, well, it didn't actually happen in the unit, and I told them not to disclose because it could potentially stigmatize the house. Now, once the real estate agent knows, you guys have a different obligation than the seller and me. I don't have to disclose. You do. So if a client calls me first, I say, don't tell the agent. Yeah. And then you guys are safe. Once they tell you, it's really rough.
Oh, no, we have to disclose
because you have a positive
sure.
obligation to disclose.
For sure.
But law of stigma is like, it's real, right? Like we've had, unfortunately, people killed with guns in houses, and we will often get those calls. What do I do? Do I stigmatize?
You often get calls about
No, but I've had, believe it or not, I've
had
had 3 or 4 in my life. Like where
Wow.
I've had one with guns, I've had the natural causes, I've had suicides, and I've had the one where the person fell off the balcony and died at a party. Yeah, and it's but you and I deal in life cycle. In all honesty, like so when first time home buyers or people who are retiring, people who are selling their parents' home. Like we've talked about all these things in this very quick podcast, right? So as part of life cycle, death is part of life cycle, and so we do have to deal with the stigma around that. And then again, these are legal topics. There's articles written, there's cases that have been tried about these things, and I don't like to talk about that stuff because we talked
so rare. Also.
Yeah, and we also talked about before the overriding thing to be practical. So that's probably amongst the most interesting sort of, crazy stories that I've had. Most of the time, it's just that personal thing that really upsets people, whether it's, the built-in stereo system that doesn't have the controller, or a fireplace and I can smell gas. Can you smell gas, honey? I thought I smelled gas. I don't know. And so you have all these kind of trippy small things that like we can blow it off, right? We can just blow the clients off. But when we do that, we're saying the stuff
we're
that's
dismissing what's important to them, which is not fair.
And so it's a psychological, emotional,
for sure.
As you know,
it's also fueled a lot by stories.
How many times have you been a therapist to somebody where with this?
How many times?
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah. Today. Like
right.
where you just kind of saying to a person, look.
Today or yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean that. But no, that's part. It's not a spreadsheet conversation.
Never.
It is a 4 walls, building your family, money that you earn every single day. You have to wake up and deal with your entire life on top of having to deal with your mortgage payments.
A carpenter ants. Termites. I've had carpenter ants. I've had termites. I had people who bought their house and they literally took like a metal rod and shoved it through the door because the carpenter ants had eaten through most of the baseboard and stuff and wasn't disclosed. There are certain sections of Toronto that have termites. Downtown, you know where, I know where, but people don't know where, right? So like I've really had every experience in terms of small things and really, really large things. In this case, the second floor of the house was condemned because the ants said there was so much actual structural damage.
Inspection?
No home inspection, no nothing. Lawsuit though, that's a lawsuit because when it's that big and there's non-disclosure, I tell them go for the throat. And I have special litigators that I send real estate matters to.
Right.
If you're going to litigate, the person has to have experience in real estate. You don't want to go to somebody who's never done it before. No. And we talked about the cousin Larry thing. Before we started, remember saying your cousin Larry just graduated from law school. Your cousin Philomena, she just got her license. Why did I say Philomena? Any idea? Anyway, Philomena, she just got her license. I mean, it's great that you want to support them, but you have to make sure that they in turn have the experience you need because
just ask questions.
So significant.
I think it just asks questions.
Yeah.
Well,
that's it.
As colorful as that was,
that's
yes, that's it.
Oh
that's
it.
We're going to have Joel back to talk about
my personal life.
Meds and his personal life.
Oh my God.
But until then, if you would like to know and reach out to
Joel at kadishlaw.com. You can look me up on the internet. There are several places where on the internet I am wearing clothes. So don't worry about that. Is that fad?
Thank you.
Oh,
That's
blessings.
It.
Thank you so much.
That's it.
Talk soon. Be well.